I'll start with stock down. My stock down team is Ole Miss. Now, I think it's pretty self-evident, right? You were, the number 6 team in the country, and then you go and you lose to Kentucky at home. Kentucky's a pretty good team. Like, we saw them push Georgia until right at the end of the game. The one thing that Mark Stoops learned was don't punt with the game on the line. He then went to the other end of the spectrum and was like incredibly ballsy with that 4th down call deep in Kentucky's own territory.
Who does that?
It was crazy. 63-yard play from Brock Vandergrift, like unbelievable, especially for a team that's like really struggled offensively throughout the first part of the season.
Brock Vandergrift could not throw the football at one point during the season. I think it was the South Carolina game. Could not throw the football.
Yeah. They had basically the same amount of sacks as completed passes in that game. So like that is a flawed but good defensive team. They're a tough team. But this is the kind of game Kentucky usually loses. And this is the kind of game that like a really good team, a true CFP contender team doesn't lose. So Georgia did not lose this game to Kentucky. Ole Miss did. And that high-flying offense that was putting up so many points and yards against everybody. They were playing like basically nobody except Wake Forest, who turns out not very good. And they come into this game and they lose it. So again, it doesn't eliminate them from the CFP, but it was not a loss that I think a lot of people penciled in. And I think a lot of us put them in the CFP in the preseason because the schedule is favorable. So now it's like, well, where do you go from here now? Like how do you get better? How do you get tougher? Like it felt like they were kind of soft in that game.
Yeah, I agree with that. You got to learn from losses in this situation. I was one of those people who looked at Ole Miss and their schedule. And I said it's got to be one of the more favorable schedules in the SEC. But there is that question that lingers with Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and how that program's built. When you go up against a program like Kentucky, and you mentioned it, right? Like struggle offensively, but they're a really good team defensively, right? Like they have an identity. They have a strong culture. How do you respond when a team is going to come in there and try to push you around and hit you in the mouth? And the response was not that good. And that's like the thing that I think a lot of people who were Ole Miss skeptics at the beginning of the year would have pointed to. They said, I can't trust this guy to be able to match styles when it comes down to playing a team like Kentucky. So certainly we'll be looking at how they respond to it. If they don't learn from this loss, it's going to be a toughie for them. But I'll get into my stock down, and I'm going with Utah. They're the team that I picked to win the Big 12. Now, they're playing without Cam Rising, the 20th year player at quarterback. And it's kind of true.
He's older than you, but like no, like it's still seventh year.
Okay, all right, yes, because we got ninth year guys that are playing in college football right now. So I think that changes the identity of the team. It's part of the reason why they're in stock down. But you start to look at how they lost that game. Okay, so under 100 yards rushing, that does not sound like a Kyle Whittingham team whatsoever. They had 2 giveaways offensively, but they also had 4 fourth downs that they did not convert. So 4 turnover on downs, which is really bad for them. Like this is not what I expected to see from Utah, and certainly is not a winning formula for them as they move forward. So I think that they're going to have to maybe find a different pathway to victory than what we've seen from them in the past. But just based off of that one result, I think the arrow is pointing down on them.
Well, and I just think like based on last year and the way that they talked about Cam Rising's injury, you just kind of have to assume that he's going to be out until we see him play in a game again. Doesn't matter if he's warming up. Doesn't matter if he's listed as week to week. And without him, I just don't know if they can do this. I think I'm back in with K-State as my front runner to win the Big 12, which is a very murky race and it's going to be a mess. But I'm with you. I think I'm out on Georgia. I think I'm out on Utah. I said Georgia. Utah.
Yeah. No, but that race it's murky, but it's going to be fun to watch. Like it's as competitive as any of these races. It just the quality might not be as high.